Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 in the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well. I am going to try to do one video every Wednesday and either Saturday, probably Saturday night or Sunday. We're going to try to do it twice a week. I know that you guys have been kind of asking for it, and I've been kind of wrapped around with different types of things and obligations and things like that. We're expecting a second Vigor Warriors 2 granddaughter soon, and then one of my daughters is also getting married, so it's kind of a very hectic time. But I don't want to forget my friends out here, and our warriors talking about what we need to talk about to get better. So I'm going to try to do one at least Wednesday, which is today, and Saturday or Sunday. We'll probably look at Sunday just because it seems like it's a more calmer type of day. So we're going to do that from now on. So let's go do some shout outs here, and we'll kind of get through our topics. Andremiller 9168, thank you, my friend. Masculinity Rising, thank you, very good. Mr. X Tech and No, thank you. Jon the Dawn, of course, thank you. VJKN 4805, thank you. Jennings, of course. Brett Adam, thank you. Brian, Yisrael, yeddah, thank you. TKO, Jon the Dawn again. DJA, Cvato 247, Better Mink, and then Dr. Von Life's Investing. Thank you guys very much for your comments. And let's talk about a topic at 1:35, or at least 1:30 here. Some people will not like you. Let's kind of talk about that. We've talked about that before a little bit, but let's kind of go into that more. So when you're in a situation where we're trying to better yourselves, and this is what we're trying to do, warriors, we're trying to become the best high-value male you can become. And when you do that, what you're doing is kind of setting off the universe and in God's way, saying, I'm going to help you become the best person you become because you're following God's purposes. And as you follow God's purposes, you're trying to become that high quality person. Now, you gain a lot of benefits from that, especially if you're able to learn how to control yourself. And that's kind of the whole art of Stoicism and Brahmacharya, all the things that we talk about. It begins with certain behaviors. Of course, semen retention is the number one thing that we talk about, because that allows you to start to build that confidence and that habit of becoming someone who's going to be able to control themselves, and then therefore have a big influence on things around them. So you're going to get to the point where you're not going to be of this world. And I say that because when you look at the Bible and the things that I believe in and talk about, those type of things talk about the fact that there is a different world than what we're living in. We're living in the world of the flesh. We're living in the world of the media, the matrix. I call it the red matrix you're in. All those type of things. You're living in a matrix out there. Now, when you're looking at this matrix, you're looking at the world. They're giving you an opinion of the world as they've always have. It doesn't matter if it's the media talking about now certain liberal attitudes, ideas that are against God, or it was the Roman Empire who basically just said, give things to Caesar. Caesar was the one that the coins, the money, give it to Caesar. So they talked about those temporal, those physical types of things. Well, that is a different world than what we're moving into. Because when you start semen retention, when you start to control yourself, your whole value system changes. You start looking at internal things, and of course you're then looking at spiritual things. And because of that, all of a sudden, now you're living in a spiritual world instead of a physical world. And that's a big difference. And you'll know that when you hit that point when all of a sudden now you're thinking, okay, I don't need this. I don't need to get approval from other people. I don't need to have tons of money to be happy. I'm very content who I am because God is with me. Your Creator is with you. And you're leaning on your Creator, and all of a sudden you're becoming a better person and you're becoming that person who's taking care of themselves, looking better physically. They're achieving more goals. They're better intellectually. They're learning more as they go on, and they're also very strong spiritually, where now they become closer to their Creator and God every day. Well, what's the end result of this? Well, of course, just like in the days of Jesus, just like in any type of situation that you see, if you have somebody who's going against the mainstream, and once again, it's almost like sheep following sheep. The mainstream people who have no idea about retention, this is why you can't really talk about all that much to people, because they just have a deaf ear. They're not ready for that. And I believe people are ready for situations. They get the information when they're ready, and good things happen to them when they're ready and able to handle it. All of a sudden, now that person is different. They're going to be out there as an outlier. They're going to stand out, and people are going to see them. And of course, just like what they did with Jesus, what happens? Well, all of a sudden now that person becomes the enemy. That person is a reflection of what most people want to be, but can't for what reason. They're not strong enough. They don't have a relationship with God, their Creator. And so now they look at this person as anathema, a curse, something they don't want around. And just like Jesus, they put Jesus to death because of that. And so it's no different than what people do now. Now, they may do it more psychologically or verbally, but they're basically trying to ostracize people who stand up for something, who basically have a viewpoint, especially of God. I've seen this even on television, where they cut off sports athletes because they're talking about God. And it's just shameful. But it's not unpredictable, because all societies have gone through this, where they start because they are building up and the communities build up. They have a strong relationship with God, because they have to depend on God to get things started. But as time goes on, and this is probably a thing about 200-300 year time period, this dynasty falls apart from within, because they lose sight of God. They've gone back to a physical world, and they think that's all there is, instead of the spiritual world that your Creator and God is in my case, Jesus Christ. So when you look at this, you're looking at a situation in which you're basically kind of being outside of the world. You're not living in this world. Yes, physically you're sitting here doing things, but your whole mental approach, everything you do, is spiritual by nature. And so because of that, you're a spiritual being walking around, and you realize that. And so now these are temporal flesh types of things are not that important. And that's why you can go ahead and abstain from sexual behavior, abstain from drugs. You don't need the high of marijuana. You don't need the high of drinking. You don't need that, because you have your own high. You're happy and content with God. And because of that, internally, you are out there as a whole different person. Now, the topic we're talking about here, again, is that people will not like you. And you have to accept that viewpoint, just like Jesus did, just like anybody has done. I don't care who the leader is, Gandhi, whatever it might be. There's people who will not like you because you're standing up, you're standing for something that they are afraid to become, or they don't want to become. Or maybe the devil, the evil one, is in them and basically telling them, no, you can't do this. And you should not be doing it. You should fight against all this, because this person they're saying is evil, when in fact it's really the other way around. Because good always outshines evil, and you know when good is around. And you know how you feel. And you know how you feel with God. And that's a whole different feeling than you felt before. And I know, because people who go into images, looking at images and all these addictions, they feel they've lost something. And you do that. Even when you release, you lose something. So you know that's not good for you in the long run. And so you kind of instinctively know what's good for you is being with the Lord and being with your Creator and being in that spiritual world. Now, that's not easy, because you're living in a physical world. But mentally, and your whole body should be in that, moving towards that physical world. And that's one of the things that can happen. And I think my no-fab release is like 1,200 days, and I can feel that I have less and less regard for physical types of intercourse, things like that, because I don't need that. If it happens, obviously, with my own situation, being married and everything, that's wonderful. But it's not something that I need to have. And I think there's a difference when you start getting to the point where you're now happy and content with whatever life is giving you. And like I said, I've lost 60 pounds. I feel tremendous. I'm at the point where I'm doing all the things that I really kind of want to do. And I'm not really that anxious anymore, depressed anymore, things like that. And it all started a few years back when I started looking at retention and trying to hold that tremendous energy that God has given you and not release it. And so as a result of that, you become a lot stronger. But you have a lot of people that don't like you. Now look at all the benefits of retention. You're talking again about a physical attraction. So now women attracted to you, and that's going to make some men upset, jealous, upset. So they're going to not like you for that. Other times your whole energy, your aura, gets people pissed off because they don't want to see a positive person. There's some people who enjoy, or at least get comfortable with, living in misery. And as a result of that, they're going to be upset with anybody that's positive. I remember being part of a Misery Loves Company group way back in the old days, when I was younger, a lot younger. And I didn't realize, and it was a habit that you formed, just complaining about things all the time because everybody else complained. Not realizing there's a whole different world out there, and you're the one that shapes it. So again, you're going back to your perceptions of how you see the world. It's got nothing to do with the world. It got a lot to do with how you perceive things happening to you. It's not what you have, it's what you make of it. And that's where we go back down to say that some level, you've got to get out of the physical world we're talking about. And I don't mean out of it, in a literal sense. I mean more of a spiritual sense, where you have to focus on most of the things you want to achieve, go back to God. And that relationship goes back to God and your creator, therefore you get the benefits. But you're going to get people upset with you because you are different. That's why we talk about the 1% club. We're talking about 1%. Hopefully maybe we'll move up to 1.5, 2% pretty soon. But we're talking about a lot of people who don't believe in what we're talking about, or they don't want to believe into it because the world has told them something different, or because they just don't want to make that effort, or something's holding them back. And because they don't have a relationship that's strong with their Lord, they're going to listen to the evil one or listen to all the temptation and things around them. And so as we look at this, it's important to know that as a warrior, you're going to get people who dislike you. Now, how do you respond to that? Well, you respond to that by saying, well, that's fine. That's how you view things. But I have a choice of not having to take that or accept that and moving on and continue the way I am. So you're going to continue who you are, and if the person doesn't come along, they're not. It's the same thing with dating or anything else. It's their loss, and you have to look at that way. They don't get a chance to experience a relationship with you. Well, that's it. Or if the company doesn't want to hire you because of some reason, well, that's going to be their loss. But you have the confidence and the faith to know that your creator, your God, is going to give you those opportunities because you're following the pattern, the plan that God has for you. And that basically is listening to God and to have some level of control and look at your body as a temple, which is what God is looking at that. And so as a temple, you're taking care of your energy, you're trying to transmute it, you're trying to heal yourself, you're trying to have all those things in you. And I just listened to a great tape by Power Man, and I'd recommend that, talking about prostate cancer and the fact that nothing, if you're practicing it, you're never going to get cancer like that, because basically that your energy is using and healing the body because you're keeping it in, you're not losing it. And so the problem that people, the scare tactic people have is they said, oh, you need to release energy or else you're going to have trouble. Well, once again, there's been thousands of years that people haven't had this through all of brahmacharya and all the years people practice brahmacharya. They haven't had that. And so it's ridiculous to kind of think of that, but we've been patterned to listen and give credentials to our doctors who basically are kind of saying the same thing their colleagues are saying, and basically trying to purport something that, you know, may not have a lot of validity. And in fact, in many cases, and you know, doesn't. I mean, you know, when you look at the history of people who have had any kind of cancer when it comes to brahmacharya, if they're following the pattern, if they're living a controlled life with their Lord, they're not going to get that because they're taking care of themselves. And the chances are very slim. And even if they get some issue, they're gonna be better off because of it, because they're gonna be stronger. Releasing that energy is a potent, powerful thing, and you can't do that on a continual basis and expect to be healthy. Like I said, I very rarely do I end up getting sick, and even if I do end up getting a cold, congestion, things like that, it goes away pretty quickly because of the energy and things that I'm keeping in my body, and I fully believe that. And I think after 1,200 some days, I've seen that over and over again, even through things that like pandemic things and things like that, where, you know, you would think that you would, at my age, especially 63, you're going to get sick. And that didn't happen. And I think there's something to be said about your own body healing you through the mechanism of transmutation and retention, and of course, stoicism and learning how to use brahmacharya. All right, well, anyway, my friends, the whole idea is that you're going to get people who, they call them haters, or people, you're gonna get people who don't like you because you're doing something that's special. You're doing something for your God. And of course, you're going to get people who support you, like a lot of people on our channel. But you're going to get people that don't like what you're doing because they wish they could do it. They could be jealous. They could be upset. Maybe it brings up a sore issue in their mind, whatever it might be. But you're going to have to get used to that. But the key thing is, don't stop who you are for anyone. Continue who you are because you know how you feel the way you are. And I think that's the best thing. All right, my friends. Well, enough for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We're going to try to do one, as I said, every Wednesday night, and we'll try to do one at least Sunday. If not, maybe Saturday. We'll try to do one at least twice a week right now until I can get my schedule a little more active to do more. I may even try a live stream at some point here to try to talk to see if people are interested, but I want to give you guys some specific times. So I'm going to try to do it at least between 8 and 9 o'clock. On Wednesdays, and I'll post that within the description as well. All right, my friends, 2 things I'll leave you with as always. 1, every day is a new day to a great warrior, and you guys are all great warriors. And number 2, guys, remember, this is always a battle between us and the evil one. The temptation is always going to be there. You have to always be strong. So every day, you got to make sure physically, spiritually, and mentally, you continue to battle!